Hello students, welcome to Topics Made Easy, and today we're gonna study about complementary goods and substitute goods, like what's the difference between them. So let's get started. So complementary goods are the goods that are consumed together as the use of one enhances the value or utility of the other, which means that it basically means that complementary goods are meant to be used together. They one in one or the other way enhances the value or the utility of the other, whereas substitute goods are goods that can be used in place of each other, that is, they substitute one another in consumption. Now, talking about the price elasticity, so complementary goods have a negative cross price elasticity, that is, they have an inverse relationship, whereas substitute goods have a positive cross price elasticity, that is, direct relationship. We are going to understand about this price elasticity thing in detail in the further slides. So let's move ahead. So one of the majorly used example of complementary goods are petrol and car, because generally we need petrol for in order to run a car, and also need car for petrol. Like, what's the use of the petrol if you don't own a car, right? If you don't have a car, or even any other vehicle as such. So that is why a car requires petrol to operate, which makes the two goods, that is petrol and car, complementary to each other, right? So now, talking about the price elasticity part. So if the price of the petrol increases sharply, demand for cars may fall, especially fuel heavy cars. So basically, if the price of the petrol increases, people will not buy petrol more oftenly, right? So their demand for the petrol will decrease. And since they are not buying petrol, there is no use of buying cars, right? We usually consider that petrol prices are so high these days, so let's avoid purchasing a car, right? Because it will be very costly. So in that same manner, if the price of the petrol increases, the demand of the petrol will decrease, and that will happen with the demand of the car as well, because they are complementary to each other. There is no use of petrol without car, and there is no use of car without petrol. So moving ahead, if we talk about the demand of the car, so if the demand of the car increases, then the demand of the petrol also rises. So students, please do not confuse that. I previously said that the complementary goods have a negative price elasticity, and here we are seeing that with the demand of car getting increased, the demand of the petrol is also increases. No, it's about demand. So there, what we talked about was the price elasticity. That is basically the relationship between the price and the demand of a product, not the demand and the demand. So we have seen here how the price elasticity was negative because the price of petrol increases, but the demand of petrol as well as car decreases. Whereas if we talk about, because they are complementary goods, it is very much visible that if the demand of car increases, the demand of the petrol will also increase. So moving ahead with substitute goods, with the example of substitute goods. So tea or coffee is of course a very major example of substitute goods. So if I talk about tea, if the price of tea increases, people will shift to coffee, raising the demand for coffee, right? Whereas if the price of coffee increases, people will switch to tea, raising demand for tea. So basically, if we talk about tea or coffee, so generally people either consume tea or coffee at one point of time. They cannot consume both of them, right? Like, basically they do not consume both of them, and that is why we study this example under substitute goods. So that means that they are substitute of each other. If I'm consuming tea, I'll not consume coffee, and if I'm consuming coffee, I'll not consume tea, right? So if the price of tea increases, so I'll instantly switch up to coffee, right? Whereas if the that is the demand of coffee will increase. So with the increase in the price of tea, the demand of coffee is getting increased, which means that there is a positive relationship between the demand of the tea and the price of the coffee, right? So there's a positive price elasticity, and that happens vice versa also. If the price of coffee increases, people will switch to tea, raising the demand for tea. So that's it for today. That was all about the difference between the substitute goods and the complementary goods. Thank you so much for watching the video.